Obviously, I've been reading a lot of your books and writings. So I'm going to ask you a few questions based on that. And the most recent development has been in Afghanistan. Of course, the US finally made an exit from there, a rather embarrassing one, if I may add. You say that you're not very hopeful about peace in Afghanistan in our lifetime. So why do you say that?
The Taliban can now claim, somewhat dishonestly, that they've defeated the two greatest armies in the history of the planet. So the Soviet Union left in 1989 from Afghanistan after a decade-long occupation and didn't achieve anything. Now, mind you, that wasn't the Taliban went around back then. It was Al-Qaeda and its allies. The Taliban came about in the early 1990s. But the Taliban can definitely say it was because of our attacks, relentless attacks on American forces, on Afghan security forces, that the Americans finally withdrew this past summer. That's their claim to fame. And as a consequence, because the Taliban, at least in Canada, is still a listed terrorist entity, we have legislation that says that. This is why Canada cannot recognize the Taliban as the government, because it would recognize a listed terrorist group as an actual entity, which has actually, as a side note, huge implications for Canadian foreign aid. Can we send money to Afghanistan? Is that financial support for a terrorist group? Really problematic. And yet Afghans are starving with winter coming up.
Yeah.
The problem is that the Taliban have said that they've changed. They call it Taliban 2.0.
Yeah.
And that's complete crap. They haven't changed one little bit. I still follow Afghanistan on a daily basis. They're still closing schools for girls. Women can't go to work. They're still carrying out attacks against Hazara Shias because according to the jihadis, the Shia are not Muslims and deserve to die. They're fighting Islamic State in Khorasan, fine, because they are rivals. Islamic State in Khorasan is mostly ex-Taliban who thought the Taliban wasn't brutal enough, wasn't violent enough. They created an Islamic State affiliate in the eastern part of the country. But Al-Qaeda is still there. I mean, everyone said Al-Qaeda disappeared. Al-Qaeda hasn't gone anywhere. They've been there for the past 25, 30, actually close to 30 years now, actually longer. And as a consequence, the Taliban may not actively say to Al-Qaeda, go ahead and attack the Americans or the Chinese or the West, but they're not going to kick them out. As a consequence, Afghanistan has now returned. Well, it never really stopped being so. Afghanistan remains a training ground for terrorism and terrorist groups. There's dozens of terrorist groups. Islamic Movement of Uzbekistan is in Afghanistan. East Turkestan Islamic Movement is in Afghanistan. And the list goes on and on. As a consequence, not only internal security is at risk, so is regional and international security because those groups are being allowed to function by the Taliban.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.